What's going on, team? Proof here. Welcome to the remaining darkness cards from set 2 that I haven't yet talked about. And let's go ahead and hop into it. So, first card we have here is Scream Slicer, Shadow of Fear. And this card is a ghost. And when one of your dragons or dragonoids enters the battle zone, destroy one of your opponent's creatures that has the lowest power. If there's more than one, randomly choose one from among them. So this card does have some nice synergies, of course, with your dragons and dragonoids. There's also a nice synergy with Kachua, in that you can go 5 mana Kachua into 6 mana Scream Slicer. Did I call him Stream Slicer before? If I did, my bad. Go into 6 mana Scream Slicer, and then you can use Kachua's ability to summon a dragon from your deck. And then after you summon it, you can then activate Scream Slicer here to remove one of your opponent's creatures. And then you can attack with said dragon and then do all the Kachua things from there. So it also combines with Dragonoids, which means like your Kirstroms. Maybe you play something small like Deadly Fighter Braidclaw, which is a 1 mana Dragonoid. Things like that, just to get the maximum benefit. Next up we got Magia Empress of Dread. Dark Lord, all creatures get Slayer. So this is a fun little piece to help your small creatures just make it through a wave of blockers, in that if your opponent chooses to remove them, they can, or to block them, they both lose and trade off, and then you can be left with Magia sticking around, or they just let the attacks through and then die sooner. So it is I have run into this as a fun little unique finishing option for small creature decks. So something typically like Fire, Water, Darkness can support something like this, because a lot of their creatures lack power. So you can give them quote unquote infinite power by making them Slayer and trade into something else. And then we got Bone Dance Charger, 3 mana spell. Put the top 2 cards of your deck into your graveyard and Charger. So this is very good for decks that feature Abzodoba, because this is a nice efficient way to fill your graveyard up with creatures before you evolve into Abzodoba. And so that way you just have a whole bunch of creatures just waiting around, and make Abzo become like a 4 or 5 shield breaker. Just try to finish the game off quickly from there. And being Charger, you can accelerate right into that. Maybe play Galand or a 5 mana dragon soon after that, and then go right into Abzodoba from then on. Nice little benefit from there. And if there's any other future graveyard summoning techniques that might come out, then Bone Dance Charger becomes a key piece there. Then we got Battleship Mutant. Each tap skill, each of your darkness creatures get plus 4,000 power, double breaker, and when there's battles, after the battle, destroy this creature. So this is a nice way to just make your, maybe you're playing a majority darkness deck. This is a nice way to make all your creatures suddenly become huge threats to try to win the game in one go. And since it gets power, that means it can make your lowly creatures hit over blockers as well. And then if they do battle, then you can just trade off from there. Or if they don't battle, you start breaking 2 shields at a time. So nice little way to help finish the game off for a majority darkness deck where you might not be having a lot of double breakers sporting in your deck. And then next up we have Necro Dragon Zollville, which Zombie Dragon is a blocker. When this enters the battle zone, put the top card of your deck into your graveyard. Then you may search your graveyard for dragons and return one to your hand. And then when this attacks your opponent, after the attack, destroy this creature. So this card is really good because it can search itself out. It fills the graveyard with creatures potentially, and it can return dragons back to your hand in any dragon. So it's not limited to zombie dragons. So it's also not limited to regular dragons either. So you can get back dragon evolution creatures. So that means if your Bajula dies, you can play Zollville the next turn, and then instantly get it back to hand, and now becomes an instant threat for your opponent to deal with again after they just spent that energy trying to remove it. Also really good to just come back with a stream of blockers, and like I mentioned before, it fills your graveyard with dragons for Abzodoba, and it can just keep getting itself out. You do have to worry about deck out because it mills 1 card every time you use it, but if you've just been beating them over with dragon evolutions the entire game, then the game probably is going to end before that becomes a factor. So when it comes to dragon based decks, I can see Zollville here becoming a staple piece, especially just to become it becomes pretty much 5 mana draw card, but a selective draw because you get back something from your graveyard that you want to have in your hand. So that's why it's really good. Then we got Dark Soul Creation, 4 mana spell, destroy one of your creatures. If you do, draw 3 cards. So this is a very big burst draw for darkness, which means that you likely don't have to keep playing water in your decks to be able to draw cards, because in set 1 you either have to play you either have to play water for Aqua Hocus and Energy Stream and things like that, or you have to play light for Bakari, Miss Rias, Magress, etc. Now with the introduction of Dark Soul Creation, you can just cut out the middleman, and you have the option now just to play more heavy darkness decks, because you can kill off your Propeller Mutants, which when it's destroyed, draw or discard, your opponent discards a card, or you can kill off your Locomotivers after they've already discarded something, so they're just kind of sitting around doing nothing. You can get rid of other things like Bat Doctor, which when it's destroyed, you can search your graveyard for a creature and return it back to your hand. So there's a lot of synergies that can be done here to make use of your darkness creatures or your other creatures, because this is the card that I was talking about with Farzi, that you can nuke Farzi and then draw 3 cards. And the nice little interaction there is that spells resolve before on death triggers, or when this card enters the graveyard trigger, which means that it's going to be sitting in the graveyard for Farzi to grab it back. So then next turn you can play Farzi again, and then followed up with the Dark Soul Creation soon after that, something like that. So nice little interaction there, nice option for darkness to get some draw, and it's a nice big burst draw option as well. Next up we got Death Harp. It's a gargoyle, shield trigger, Slayer. So Slayers really haven't seen a whole lot of play, because Slayers come with lower power. They do kind of entice your opponent not to attack, but at the same time, they are fairly easy to remove through power-based removal. So, or your opponent just can swarm the board and not care about you having one singular Slayer on the board. So this being a shield trigger creature might find its way to being a little more useful, because it can become a surprise body on the board after your opponent's big creature attacked. So say they broke your shields with Bajula and they have nothing else on the board, you pop up with Death Harp here, and now suddenly that Bajula here, after it's done some damage to your mana zone, isn't going to stick around for much longer. So nice little added benefit there, and it is a common, so if you're lacking Terror Pits, this can become a nice way for you to have something that's close enough to Terror Pit to be useful. Next up we got Trixo Wicked Doll, 4 mana Death Puppet. When this attacks your opponent and is a block, your opponent destroys one of their creatures. So this is a little annoying unit that you have to deal with, otherwise it can start steamrolling your board. It is coming in at 4 mana, so it's right in that range of a fire card called Volcano Charger, which we're going to get to in a little bit. I'm pretty sure we didn't talk about that during the previous reveals, but it kind of falls in line with that and other fire-based power removals such as Meteosaur. So it does have a little bit of a weakness there, but it's a darkness creature, so it can be buffed up by Shadow Moon, which means it becomes more of a threat soon thereafter. So just kind of have to just keep an eye out for it, because I have run into it once or twice, and if you're not ready for it, it just can kind of just mull you over. And then we got Junkat's Rabbit Doll, just a vanilla Death Puppet. So they're really setting the stage for Death Puppet evolution creature. The only one that I can think of right now is Endless, which is a card that we might be seeing coming up in the future. If you're not familiar with what it is, I would recommend looking at the regular Duel Masters wiki, but I'm pretty sure off memory it's a 3 mana 5000 power Death Puppet evolution, and when your opponent discards a card, you draw that many cards. So nice little way to make use of your darkness discard spells. But that's only me projecting, because we got like 4 or 5 new Death Puppets in this set, and we have one right here in Lupa, a Poison Tip Doll. Tap skill, one of your creatures gets Slayer to the end of turn. So this is a nice way just kind of entice your opponent to not attack, in that you can kind of just fill Lupa here and then kind of just play a game of chicken with your opponent, see who's gonna jump first. But I don't know if this particular tap skill is gonna be very useful, because unless you play like something like Rumblegate or Light to tap down your opponent's stuff, you're probably not going to have a way to activate it, or a viable target to activate it on, something big that you want to remove. So it is kind of cumbersome right now, but it is a future potential 2 mana evolution bait for any future Death Puppet evolution creature. And last but not least for darkness, we have Corpse Charger, 4 mana spell, search your graveyard for a creature and add it to hand, and Charger. So nice way to get back some of your like bigger creatures that may have been destroyed. However, since it is a search effect, which does have that added nerf to it, in that it gives you the 3 random options, you might not find what you're looking for. So just keep that in mind as you're using it. You may want to use a deck that's heavier on spells with few big creatures that might end up in the graveyard. So then you can corpse charger them back to hand, something like that. But it is a 4 mana charger, which is fairly useful to accelerate you right into 6 mana, which means it puts you in range for Terror Pit or other 6 mana big bombs as well. Something to keep in mind for your deck building. It is a fairly common add to current Fire, Water, Darkness control decks, because it can get back in both medias because your deck is more spell heavy than previously. That'll do it for all the darkness cards. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next civilization. Peace. Be easy.